Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? By a show of hands, how many of you guys use Adobe Premiere? Okay, great. That's all I need. So my name is Vinnie Hobbs. I've been editing professionally for about 12 years. I've been editing since I was a kid, though. So far, I've edited music videos, feature films, and commercials, and I plan on doing much more. This presentation isn't about how to edit, but it's more so about a glimpse into my journey and a few tips and tricks I learned along the way. So I'll say one of my favorite things about editing is collaborating with different DPs, different directors, and different artists all around the world. And I'll be honest, that feeling of what if I don't get it right still stays to this day. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Okinawa, Japan, where my parents were educators through the Department of Defense schools. And back then, when I was in school, we had this skate magazine, and they were one of the few companies that actually shipped products over to the island. And they had skate mixtapes, skate videos that we all loved. And about those skate videos, they would always put a cool song to the skate tricks they would do. And I always found myself searching that song, downloading it, burning it to a CD, and playing it all day, every day. I thought the music selection was so cool. So I tried to be like that and tried to make my own skate videos by attaching two VCRs together, one with the footage, one was a blank tape, and I would press play and try to time it right by pressing record on the other and try to make my own skate tape with cool music. I had no real software, just hardware, and little did I know that was kind of laying the foundation for something I didn't realize at the time. So this is gonna be a little embarrassing, but here's my first skate tape. I'll go ahead and play it. So So I showed that to prove that your first video doesn't have to be good. It actually can be really bad. But there's some happy mistakes you can make and learn a lot from it in the future. That's about as far as I got, so I quit skateboarding after that. But I used this thing called Windows Movie Maker. Anybody familiar with Windows Movie Maker? Yeah, OGs right here, okay. So that was my first editing software, but once I found out about Adobe Premiere Pro, it changed my whole view of editing. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit more. We didn't have cable television on Okinawa, so when I would visit the States with my parents, I would beg my mom and dad to take me to Walmart and get me a blank VHS tape so I could record music videos through MTV Jams and BET and bring it back to Okinawa. And I played that thing until it couldn't play anymore. It was like having gold. I would just play it every day after school with all my friends, and it was almost like I was a DJ, but through videos. One of my biggest inspirations growing up, producer Timbaland, Missy Elliott. Anybody familiar with Missy Elliott Duran? Great video. I think that changed the brain chemistry in my head. One of my favorite videos. And after high school in Okinawa, I interned for what's called the American Forces Network, where we would edit news packages and just local content for the broadcast station. And that gave me a sense of how to work in a professional environment with other people, sending off project files and sharing ideas and making a collective vision. Some people would use different editing softwares, but I found myself secretly using Adobe Premiere on the side. It wasn't the recommended one, but I kept using it because for some reason it just worked with my brain. So I'm gonna fast forward to university in Seattle. I found whatever camera I could get my hands on, and I would shoot literally anything. Like anything I could do, I would shoot it and edit it, and use all my resources to gather people to create some kind of production. And during that time, do you guys remember the iPhone 3GS? It was like the first video phone, I guess. It's around like 2009-ish. So I borrowed a iPhone 3GS from my friend, Josh Berman. I didn't have enough money at the time, so I had to borrow it. And there was a parade in downtown Seattle, and we shut that whole place down, and we kind of made it our own thing. It It was probably super illegal, but we had a lot of fun making it. I'm gonna play a little sample of it right here. And there's me. And I don't know if you guys can see, but in that little corner right there, it says, novelty aside, looks pretty good. And that was enough for me to keep going, and it encouraged me to keep shooting. So as I built trust with these artists, I think they gave me like $300, and that was a huge budget for me. So we were able to rent some lighting equipment, I think one lens, and we tried to make it work. And here's some visuals of the video we shot with $300. And I consider this like my first real video that I shot, directed, all that. But later on down the road, an actor said something to me that kind of stuck. It kind of burned a little bit, but they said, it doesn't take a genius to cut to the beat. And that felt like a sword in my heart. But what I think this person meant was rhythm isn't everything, and that anybody can line up cuts to a tempo or a beat. Even AI can do that nowadays. But I think editing nowadays is more about emotion, tension, and silence, where I'm at in my career, and learning how to listen and learn with other people, and not just working by yourself. It's also about the breath in between moments. So, I'm going to switch it up and open up Premiere. And do we have anybody who's just starting out with editing? Anybody who's new to editing? Oh, all pros here? Okay, all right. Well, this tip might not tickle your fancy, but let's see. One thing I learned was, sometimes you can't get that perfect shot. Sometimes things will be off-centered, off-frame, and you'd have to do the most to make it look good. And something as simple as reframing a shot can make things visually pleasing using the rule of thirds. I'm sure all you photographers know. And even mess with gravity and how people perceive the shot. So here's one shot for a Bad Bunny video. Bad Bunny and J Balvin. And we did some cool things. Director Colin Tilley and DP Elias Talbot, they had some really cool ideas with how to force that perspective. And we had some cool shots where they really framed for some cool ideas like this right here. So it really proves, even with a $0 budget, you could do something like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and go back to that presentation because you guys seem like you guys are very familiar. So one thing that was new to me was when I moved to the Bay Area, I met some like-minded filmmakers, and there was a director by the name of Jonathan Singervon, and he happened to reach out to me and asked if I wanted to edit a feature film. So instantly I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. And I did not know what I was in for. It was a mess. I was on set every day, I was DITing, I was wrangling the footage, I was doing way too much. But I think I would consider that my film school because I was on the field, doing things myself, and actually being hands-on. So with that said, I think music videos taught me instinct, whereas this feature film taught me discipline. And got lucky enough where I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but we got lucky enough to get selected by South by Southwest Film Festival in 2013. The first cut for this was so bad though. It was horrible. And after about 4 months of editing, we got it to a decent place. And we were watching our own film on the big screen in Austin, Texas. And that was a cool moment. Out of about 1,250 films, only 8 were selected. So that was a big moment for me. Just want to go through a few things that I learned from this feature film. Editing can largely be used for emotional direction, and we guide an audience second by second. Not by telling them, but by shaping them what they hear and feel. For this movie, when I cut a scene, I wasn't just cutting for rhythm, just cutting to a beat. I felt like I was cutting for breath, the same way a musician kind of takes beats in between using their instruments. And sometimes I learned that continuity isn't just visual either. If anything, it's super emotional. And sometimes an over-the-shoulder shot, I'm sure you guys have seen in TV shows, it will be like over the shoulder, and you'll see the other angle, and their arm will be in a different position, or their face will be like actually talking. But if the emotion's consistent, I think that overpowers a visual consistency with movement. And here's the timeline for my first feature film as editor. Just gonna linger on that for a couple of seconds. How many of you guys share your timelines? Anybody? Got one? Oh, okay. Okay. So after I got my feet wet with that, I went back to videos. And the reason why I did that is because I found myself really, I think I realized that I had a crazy passion for music and hip hop and R&B in general. So naturally, I feel like that gravitational pull brought me right back into it. And I thought I was a decent shooter, but when it came to the editing part, I had to figure out a lot. And I didn't want to embarrass myself with mediocre footage, so I tried to make myself look good like I did in that skateboard video, but instead with different artists to different songs. And my job was to make cheap footage look cinematic, and one thing I'll say right now is to not get too caught up in the paintbrush, not get too caught up on the tools. I would say think more about the canvas and the overall picture of things. And I'm gonna move on to Premiere and show one little thing that I've been using lately. How many of here use multicam? Okay, a lot of multicam. How many don't use multicam? Okay, see, I was a multicam hater at first. When people would suggest it, I would always be like, nah, that's not how it should go. And I was kind of full of myself. So for those of you who don't know how to use multicam, I'm gonna go ahead and show a little bit on how that helped me with this Rosé video called Messy. And this was off the F1 soundtrack. And if you're just tuning in, or if you don't know how to use multicam, there's a little option right here. If you click the wrench tool, and you click that, and you can kind of see all the other angles that were shot for that set or that scene. And for this one, the turnaround was so quick. I think we had about 3 days to turn this whole thing around. And I had to work faster. I had to find a way to move faster on this. And I felt like multicam in Adobe Premiere really helped me out with that, especially with auditioning takes, working with the artist and her being able to choose what she liked. This was a dream. And I was so against it, but for some reason, this time around, I gave in, and it actually worked out for the better. So for those of you who didn't catch that, this multi-camera setting, after you line up all your performances, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down. I think on this one, we had about 75 performances, which is okay. But I like to use 9. 9 is a nice good number to see. And you can bundle those up and enable a multicam setting. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but just know that it is possible to easily see all your performances and kind of flow faster and be a little more creative too as you use your tools. So I'm gonna go back to the presentation and keep it moving. So back to the feature film. During the final stages of that, I was put in the room with director Colin Tilley. Do you guys know Colin Tilley by chance, anybody? Okay. He was doing some of the biggest music videos at the time. And so he went to my little apartment in Berkeley. And that was crazy because I was already a fan. And he offered for me to edit one of his music videos. And I thought it was a joke at first, but I gladly accepted. And sure enough, that one video that I edited for him was the start of a long-lasting creative relationship. We almost locked the first cut. We had to make some product placement changes, and you know how it goes. But I want to say we locked that first cut, and I think that's what hooked Colin. And I want to say that's the first video that I consider like a big budget video because it was commissioned by a video label, and that was Cash Money Records. And the video was for Birdman in French Montana. It's called A Shout Out, and that was the last #1 video on BET's 106 in Park. So that was really impactful for me. And here's just a glimpse of some of the videos that me and Colin have done together. Okay. So when I was editing my own stuff, I was so full of myself. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the man. I thought speed ramps were just enough to get me by, flashes, those third-party plugins that you use and you get stuck on. I was using all those. And I thought I was the best. And as I started working with other people, I got shut down real fast and realized that I had to open my mind up a little bit and be a little more vulnerable with these people I was working with. That feeling of what if I don't get it right definitely hit way harder back then, as it still hits today, but I had to learn how to adapt quickly. One thing I learned was how to take a back seat. Sometimes, I know a lot of editors like to take control of the editing room and control of the edit, but sometimes if somebody's in the zone, you gotta let them cook. You gotta take a step back and let them do their thing, because great things can happen because of it. And once I allowed that to happen, I felt like my videos and edits got a lot better. And not to get too galaxy brain on you guys, but there's a quote by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he said, "It's possible to know enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough to know that you're wrong." And that's also called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And so when I was first starting out, I thought I knew everything, but really, in reality, I was kind of naive and stupid. Then when I started working with other people, I erased everything and I had the biggest ego death ever and realized I knew nothing. And then as time went by and I started doing more edits, I kind of hit that happy medium where I was open-minded, I was willing to listen to other people and let them cook, and kind of hit that harmonious middle ground in between, where I was still confident in my edits, but I let other people contribute without me being so full of myself. So this is gonna be fun. How many sound designers are in here? Okay. So one thing I've learned that sound design is one of my favorite things to do outside of picture editing. And I wanna share one thing that I love about Adobe Premiere, and I actually just learned about it, I wanna say 2 years ago. I wish I knew about it sooner, but sound design is kind of what helps me sell my edits these days, especially if there's a cool place for some dropouts or some narrative storytelling. I love using sound design, especially with the tools that Adobe Premiere has, one of them being reverb, specifically convolution reverb. And I'm gonna play a little bit of this Justin Bieber video where I was able to really amp this scene up by using some sound and some cool reverb effects in Premiere. And I used the audio track mixer for this one, and I'm gonna show a little demonstration on how I use that. So, if you use the audio track mixer, that allows the sound effects that you put on certain sounds kind of extend out further on in the video, and I'll give you an example right here. So right here you see, I don't know if you could see, it's kind of small, but layer 9 right there, I have some sounds on here that sound a little bit better when you just add a touch of reverb. And I'll go ahead and isolate that and show you how it sounds just by itself. And I don't know if you noticed, there was like an echo. And I feel like that matched the room and helped sell that whole scene by adding a little more details to the sound design. And here it is without it. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that, or actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put that to another layer and see what that does. It's a little reverb, but not too much, and then I'll go ahead and put it here. I don't know if you guys noticed the difference, but on layer 9, it kind of opens it up a little bit and matches the big environment in that boxing ring. So if I want to get down and dirty to it, it's called Studio Reverb, and if you put the decay and room size, you can adjust it to what you're seeing. So if you take away anything, the Studio Reverb is a huge tool that has helped me sell edits. So just to recap, here's 3 quick ways that I made my low budget videos back in the day look better for those of you just tuning in online or just new to editing, new to Adobe Premiere. Here are just a few things that can help make your edits just feel a little punchier, more enhanced, and higher budget. So I'd say when it comes to tools, like I was saying earlier, don't get too caught up on the paintbrush, kind of look at the canvas, because I feel like muscle memory kind of turns into instinct. And with that, if you don't have to think about how your tools work, it just kind of comes naturally as second nature. And I've learned once my tools that I've got familiar with, once I kind of learned that as like a second nature muscle memory thing, I feel like my edits were turning out better and they were turning around quicker. I would get edits out in maybe 2-3 days versus like 7 to 8. And I feel like your shortcuts and your favorite ones, you don't have to know too many shortcuts, but I feel like if you really harness about 2 or 3, it can help you and go a long way. Okay, how many editors here work with other people, other artists, outside of the director only? Okay. At first, were you guys comfortable in your own little bubble like me? Yeah? Yeah, that was me at first. I was really comfortable in my own edit bay. You know, it's cozy, it's dark, you have your own screen, you got your food. If you have a pet, you can just have your pet on your lap. And it can get really cozy and really comfortable. And I was terrified at first when I had to send cuts out to directors because I thought my way was the only way. And I wanted every transition, every frame to be perfect. And I had to learn how to get out of that funk. And one thing I learned was that showing your unfinished work and asking for feedback from other people actually helps out a lot, especially when they think differently and they're from different backgrounds. When you kind of meet that collective vision, your edit can come out different than you originally planned for the better. And I feel like that's one way I leveled up, and that was just getting outside my comfort zone and leaving the edit bay and not staying in the comfort of my own room. A lot of the times I felt like my work spoke for itself, and I learned that that doesn't happen in isolation, so I had to actually, I remember, who was it? I think it was Nicki Minaj. I was asked to go to her house to edit, and it was my first time editing with an artist by themselves. So it was just me and her, and I was so nervous. I didn't even know if I can get the job done, but once I was in it, it was okay, but I had to break that comfort zone, and just thinking about it before I went there, it was so nerve-wracking, and I didn't know if I could do it. But I ended up doing it, and that video was called Anaconda. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but so that was I think that won Best Hip Hop at the VMAs, but that was a almost traumatizing experience, but also a great experience at the same time. So I feel like the more I got out of my comfort zone, the more I met artists, I felt like my edits actually got better because I was learning from them. And they're not even editors. And they would make these suggestions that I would never think of myself. So I think having that open mind and knowing that I don't have all the answers, it helped. It helped me grow, and it helped me get in the room with a lot more other people from, you know what, I don't want to name drop too much this session, but I'm going to leave it at that. And I was put in the room with Cardi 7 years ago, and we've been working ever since. And she came to my studio one day, and we just got finished editing Bongos. It's featuring Megan Thee Stallion. And I was like on my computer, and she was like, hey, like, Vinny. And I like turned around, and I was like, wait, what? And she said, take out your phone and record me. I was so confused, but I did it, and she happened to say this.
You look so clean, like the edits are sharp, clean, cut to the chase. Show.
So I don't know if she knew how editing worked, but I feel like during this session, it finally clicked. She saw the timeline, she saw how I cut things, she even like got close and like said, hey, what does that do? What does that razor thing do? And once the edit was done, that's when she told me to bring out my phone because I think something clicked in her head, and she gave me a little bit of love in that video. Made me really happy. I know I showed the multicam thing. I'm kind of going all over the place. I didn't realize I was going to have so many editors in here, so I'm adjusting right now. But here's the timeline for the Rosé video. I think that's at about 70 million on YouTube at the moment, which is so-so these days. All right, let's talk about it. Right now, there's no harder topic than AI. I feel like we're fully in it, and there's really no escaping it. Do we agree? Yeah, it's here to stay. And I feel like how I feel about AI now is a lot different than it was about 6 months ago, because it's evolving so fast. Even this past month, it's been crazy, absolutely crazy. But I used AI for a video, and it almost felt like I was cheating a little bit. But I used it in a way where I didn't feel like I was cheating too much. And I feel like AI nowadays, especially with the way I used it, I feel like it didn't really replace creativity. It only revealed it and helped create some more ideas out of it. And I'll show you one example. Going back to that video, the Rosé video, for the F1 soundtrack, there was a scene where they were gambling with beads. And I'll actually go back to it right here. So there's a gambling scene where they're using these as their currency. And these shots that you see right here were just kind of plain. Those are beads that she's laying on, but something felt a little flat. Something felt, I don't know, just not something I was used to. So I opened up a program and thought, hey, what if the beads were like floating up? I know it's simple and kind of silly, but it's how I was feeling that day, and I made a sample of what it could look like. As you can see, it's not that good. It's not good at all, actually. But it kind of helped me visualize the idea with the pacing, the movement, the timing, and helped me realize, okay, this actually might work if done properly. So I used that as a tool to, I coined this term, it's going to sound super corny, but EPA, experiment, pitch, and apply. Hopefully that sticks, but we'll see. Sounded a lot better in my head. But we had the original shot right here, as you can see on the left, and that sample video right here, and I had to pitch it to Colin Tilley, the director, and I was kind of nervous. I didn't know if he was gonna freak out, or it was my first time using AI with Colin, so I didn't know what he was gonna react with. I didn't know what he was gonna say. But instantly he was like, oh, I love it, we're going all the way with it. And sure enough, we sent it out to a real visual effects artist, and this was kind of how the final product looked. And to me, it looks a lot better than this one right here. He liked this so much, he actually put it in a lot more scenes than I thought he was. He almost went overkill with it, but hey, he's the director, he can do what he wants. And just one last little timeline piece right here. And that's for this is the visual effects final So right now in my career, I feel like I'm in a different place. I started out with music videos, actually skate videos, then to music videos, then to a feature film, back to videos, all over the place. But I'm gonna say 7 to 8 years later, I ended up editing commercials. And I didn't know how to feel about that. And going back to what I was saying about thinking you know it all and collaborating with other people, this is where it really came into play. Because sometimes when you're editing a commercial, you're working with agencies, creative directors, and other people that have thoughts on one shot or even one frame. So many different opinions, so many different ideas. And at first, it was really hard for me to ingest that and actually decipher what everybody was saying and meet a happy medium. So with music videos, there is a little bit more of isolated creative control. Sometimes it will be just me and the artist, sometimes me and the director, and we're in our own little bubble. Even though great things can happen because of it, I feel like one thing I learned with commercials is that you're working with a lot more people, and with a different incentive too. And I feel like with editing, none of that means anything without collaboration. And it took a long time for me to understand how this process worked. But at this point right now, here's how I feel. I feel like the future of post isn't about AI, it isn't about smarter tools, it isn't about those shortcuts, it's about those relationships. And with like Jonathan Singervine, Colin Tilley, all the directors and artists I've worked with over the past 12 to 15 years, I feel like that's what kind of gave me the career that I still love passionately to this day. And getting out of that bubble, that comfort zone, out of that edit bay, where you think you know everything, sometimes you have to take that leap of faith and just be a little more open-minded to other people's ideas. There's a quote by Ben Affleck, and this was from like an editing documentary. I know this sounds boring, but how many of you guys seen an editing documentary before? Okay, well I have, yeah. There was a quote in there. He said, "Great editors know when to let go of control, you have to trust the cut." And when I heard him say that, that really stuck with me, and I saved it. I wrote it down and I saved it. And that helped me grasp the idea of working with so many different people on these commercials. Eventually, when I stopped fighting for the control, it kind of created this harmony. And I felt like I still, at the same time, wasn't losing my voice. And that was really important to me because starting out with how I did, I felt super in control and everything had to be final say by me. And for anybody who's just starting out, if you're watching online, if you're just starting out, or if you're new to Adobe Premiere, new to editing, or just if you edit on the weekends, from what I've gathered so far in this career, I feel like editing is about trusting your instincts. It's about trusting your collaborators. And trust that even if you don't know exactly where the cut is going, that it's going somewhere honest. Be true to yourself, be true to your vision, and don't just give in to anything. Don't just be a pushover and agree with anything that somebody's saying. Stand your ground, but also be open-minded. And the timeline is just a reflection of how much you're willing to trust yourself. And I'm gonna leave it up to the Q&A for the rest of the time. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now, and let's hear it. Thank you, by the way.
What's something you feel like you're still like trying to learn or struggle with?
Oh yeah. So what's one thing that I'm still learning and struggling with at the moment? It's a good question. I'm still struggling with working with agencies and different creative directors and making time to make director's cuts without getting paid. That's one thing I'm learning to deal with. And also, I think we're in a time right now where AI is really kind of like ruffling things up. And I'm trying to figure out where that's gonna land. Somebody made this analogy that it's almost like railroad tracks. During the invention of the tech, the tracks were set down and they're still there to this day. We just upgraded the trains. And I feel like those tracks are being laid down. And eventually, over time, we're going to upgrade those trains, whether it be a software program, whether it be a plugin. But I feel like adapting to how fast technology is moving is something that I'm dealing with right now, for sure.
What's a piece of advice you would give yourself when you were 16, like starting on your first skate video, like you were just starting out? What's a piece of advice?
Do we want the mic to? Do you mind repeating that question? Yeah, I think we want to do the mic. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What's like a piece of advice you would give to yourself when you were making your first skate video, like as a kid or just like somebody who's just starting out? What's a piece of advice you would give out?
Say that last part again.
One more time.
The very last part. I didn't catch that.
What's like a piece of advice you would give out? That was the last bit.
What would you tell your younger self?
My younger self. What would I tell my younger self? What would I tell my younger self? That's a good question. Everybody has their own path. There's no blueprint to this game. So if I had to speak to my old self, I would just say, keep going. Because I feel like there's no exact way to do things. And sometimes it's all about making mistakes and failing. And I failed many, many times before. And sometimes I feel like those failures actually help me. But let's see, I feel like I do want to answer that with something. I would say find better cameras. Yeah. Right. Oh, we have a, do we want to? Oh, there we
So
go.
I'm going to ask that you step to the microphones if you can. If not, I'll try to track you down.
Hi. How often for your videos are you involved in pre-production with your director? And if you're not and you're just given kind of the footage or brought in after everything's shot, how does your process for like intake, but also like creatively finding, the tone of the piece, like how does that differ in your process if you're involved from the start?
How much am I involved in the pre-production process? That's a really good question because lately I found myself editing a lot of previs. A previs is, do we know what a previs is, guys? It's basically an edit before they even start shooting using like mood board ideas or mood board pictures. And for me, for instance, when I edit, I did a previs for a music video and I got the treatment. I would screenshot all the images from the treatment and then lace them to the song. So we knew exactly what to do on set because the previs kind of helped us say, hey, we have this close up here, we have this wide performance shot here, we have this cool B-roll shot here, and when you're on set, it's really important to move fast. So when you have that reference point, it can help things. It can help you not just freestyle on set, which can turn into a disaster, and just keep you in line and focused. So I'd say in the past 2 years, I've been making more previses than ever. Thank you.
Hey, so quick question. I wanted to know, what is a pivotal process that you use when you're editing? Like, what is something that you typically do when you're editing commercials or music videos?
What's a typical thing I do? I love to add a color grade to the whole thing. Before I even start, I'll just put a little bit of enhancement towards the whole, I guess, like feel and vibe of the video. If I hear the song, I can kind of like feel it already. But another thing I do is, actually, I've never told anybody this, but I might actually show you. You guys want to see it? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. Now, I know everybody has their own workflow. There's no right way to do things, and I'm sure I'll get roasted for this, but one thing I like to do is put everything in a string out. So I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but to answer your question, one thing I do for every video nowadays is I take all the footage and put it on one timeline. I know some people like to go to their bins and double click and search in their source monitor, but for me, I like everything to be in one flat timeline. And that helps me see things from a zoomed out perspective. And it also helps me scrub and find footage and little diamonds in the rough. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes if you pre-select things, if you make your selects timeline, you could be missing out on that one move, that one shot that could connect something or be used as connective tissue and you don't even realize it. So I'd say the one thing I do is a string out for everything. Thank you. Keep that there.
What are one or two music videos that have really inspired you over the course of your career to put you where you're at today? Like, it could be one or two or even three, like the first ones that come to your mind.
Let's see, could they be old school?
It could be whatever you want.
So Missy Elliott, The Rain. We talked about that earlier. That's like the main one. Oh, there's so many. You know what? It's funny. The other day I saw this Genuine video called What's So Different. It's directed by Francis Lawrence. The great thing about this is Francis Lawrence turned into a movie director, and he's done huge videos. But he started out doing music videos, so that was inspiring. I saw that video the other day, and I was like, who directed this? And it turns out it was like a big Hollywood movie director. But I'd say those two videos growing up really like changed something in my head.
You say those one more time?
It's Missy Elliott, The Rain, and Genuine, What's So Different.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, both produced by Timbaland, by the way. Yeah.
So I'm curious, as a filmmaker, where would you advise to show our films to get seen, and maybe take things to the next level?
To get seen, to get exposure. Ooh, so back when I was starting out, I was kind of obnoxious on social media, like Twitter. I would just blast it like 3 times a day, hoping it would stick, and not being afraid to self-promote. I know it's cringe, but sometimes putting yourself out there on the airwaves or the internet for the world to see, if the algorithm likes you that day, sometimes it will catch on. Sometimes the algorithm doesn't like you so much, and you'll get no exposure at all. But aside from that, I think it's not really about people watching your video. I think it's about who you're making it with. And if you're with like a reputable director or an artist that's familiar or popular or something like that, that alone can help get your work exposure. So if anything, I would say try to force yourself to shake those hands, make yourself uncomfortable, put yourself in those rooms with important people, because you could collaborate on something that will get seen.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, do you ever have like an edit or a project that kind of turns into a grind, or kind of just feels a little stale? And if so, like, how do you push through it or freshen it up so that it doesn't feel that way?
Is there a video where, or have there been projects where I felt like it was stale and going nowhere? All the time. All the time. I wish every video I worked on was getting 1 billion views every time, but it doesn't work like that. And it's funny you asked that, because one of the things that I was able to kind of understand later on is some of those projects where I'm like pulling my hair out and just kind of having an existential crisis, like what am I doing here? Those videos can actually help me out later on, because I'll use like an effect or a transition or editing technique that I wouldn't normally use otherwise. So those videos where I feel like it's stale or whack or just like, why am I here? What am I doing? I'll force myself to do something different for that video, just so I can either remember it for the future or maybe just make a happy mistake and it will be something that can be used for other things. So, thank you.
I really appreciated that you went over sound design in your workflow with the reverb. I never put 2 and 2 that room size was actually that. So it's one of those things. But my question is, for sound effects, are there any other ones you'd recommend playing around with? Because reverb's about all I've done.
Yeah. Reverb is key. Convolution reverb, delay. Delay has been great. It makes it sound like there are like 3 voices instead of 2 or 1. And let's see, there's a bunch that I've been using lately. I'd say convolution reverb is great. And there's one thing, I think it's called distant source. Here it is. Convolution reverb, distant source. If you want to make something feel like it's far away or through like a wall or something like that, you hit that distant source preset, it can do everything for you. You can adjust it here and there, but you'll be surprised how powerful it is.
Rock on, thank you.
Yeah, and that's an internal Adobe Premiere effect too. So.
Hey, how did you do at the beginning to network and being able to be around artists and work for them?
I probably shouldn't say this, but I would. So can you repeat the question one more time, just so everybody?
How did you manage to network at the beginning to like work for artists?
So how did I manage to network? So sometimes I would show up to sets I wasn't supposed to be on. And I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but one time I faked like I was the DIT, the data wrangler. And I was backing up the footage, and I think the camera team was backing up the footage, but I kind of acted like I was running the show. And sure enough, I got lucky and was asked to edit that video because as I was backing up the footage, I put it in Premiere and made a tiny little edit. And I think the director liked it, so we ended up working together afterwards. I wouldn't recommend that to too many people. But if there's anything you should take from that, it's take risks and break that comfort zone. I know I've been saying that a lot, but it really is true. I was definitely uncomfortable doing that. I didn't feel like I was in the right place, but got something out of it. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you find it difficult to work with directors where maybe like your vision as an editor might clash a lot with the vision of the director for the project?
Yes, all the time, all the time. Mostly it's the artists. I'll develop a good relationship with the director where we can communicate on an equal playing field. So if there's something we disagree on, it could be fixed smoothly with no, feelings being hurt or anybody feeling like they're stupid, or making somebody feel like they made the decision, even though it was your idea. But do I clash? Yes, all the time. I think the one thing I avoided, though, was kind of the negativity that could be involved with clashing. That's something that can be avoided. So if you want to give critique or if there's something you don't like or if you need something to be improved, there's a way to say things and there's a tone to have. And that's one thing I had to learn a long time ago. And that's one thing I realized that I'm receptive to. If a director says something in an eloquent and professional, polite manner, I'll be a lot more open-minded than I normally would.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's up, man?
First off, your career and the work you've done is outstanding. So thank you for sharing this journey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Really love seeing your process and your kind of imagination played out on a timeline and the way that you zoom out. And since a kid, I was always admiring music videos from like Michael Jackson's Thriller to Remember the Time, and like they were so theatrical and cinematic. It's what drove me to want to be a creative and do storytelling. So my question for you is, if you, in the age of AI and changing social media platforms, no one technology will be here maybe 5 years from now, like they could all change, right? So it's probably not really helpful for us to say like, oh, what platform helped you? For me, I want to say like, if you zoom out of your life and look at your life as a timeline, what were the little gem insights that you see that worked for you, that made you stand out and meet the right people and work on the right projects?
Really good question. Really great question. Zoomed out and seeing those chapter markers, what we call it? Okay, we'll call them chapter markers. I'd say that first skate video was one. I didn't realize that laid the foundation of how I thought about putting pictures together. I know when we grow up, like when we watch a movie, we only, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel like the director is who we remember the most, right? People don't remember the DP, or the DP too, but I feel like the editors are the unsung heroes because we don't really think about, oh, who cut that? Who edited that movie? I feel like nowadays that's changing and people are getting their props. So when I realized when I was younger, when I was doing VCR to VCR, that was a pivotal moment. And then moving on from the floppy disks to an SLR camera to then Adobe Premiere, it was like a constant journey. But I'd say that switch to Adobe Premiere from, I don't want to say it out loud, but we know the program before. When everything became native in Adobe Premiere, that's when I think everything changed. I was able to put raw footage in, MXF files, AVI files, WMV files, all that, and just go. Didn't have to worry about transcoding, all that. So I had this like creative tunnel vision after I was able to just freely edit right away. And then I'd say another chapter marker would be commercials. Working in different environments with more suits, less artists and more corporate people. I think that's like a new part of my career that I'm at right now. So those are just a few.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. Great question, by the way. Thank you.
Hey, so this question is regarding the Justin Bieber video. So prior to putting the effects in Premiere with the ref doing the call out, what was the initial audio setup? Like, did you use a boom mic or was he mic'd up or what?
Oh, there was no audio at all. Yeah, those were sounds from the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. How's it going? I wanted to ask, because I love what you said about, collaborating, building relationships, that being key for one's growth. What I wanted to ask is, if for somebody that's trying to seek those higher opportunities, to work with different higher creatives or bigger production companies, how would one, I don't know, like what would be the biggest impactful move to do right now? It could be maybe like relocating cities or investing on a music video yourself, or I don't know, just maybe tap into certain communities. What would you think that can increase that trust level for them and they be able to see that in you? That makes sense.
One thing I would say to answer that question, I think people won't like me after answering this, but doing something for free if you have no resume can do a lot. I remember I was editing for directors I looked up to for free for a while in the very, very beginning. And any money that I would get went to equipment or anything else. But I'd say offering to do something if you have nothing to show for it, if you have no resume or anything to show and prove that, hey, you're worthy of it, I'd say, hey, like, reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'll do that for free if you need it. And who knows, they might love it, get some money for you later on, and that could turn into a whole thing of its own. I know a lot of people, I don't want to say work for free all the time, but if you want to get your feet wet and start experimenting, I'd say that could be one way to do that.
And I think it, like, for example, myself, part two of this question is, like, I've invested on, I found an artist that I like his music. I invested in like, hey, let me create a record company so that we can publish your music so that then I can create a music video for you. And I did a couple of those and, they look amazing in my portfolio, but now it's like, what's next? Who should be seeing this? How can I put that out there? Or should I keep on doing this for a little bit until something, something changes?
Yeah, so you're saying you have a reel right now of some kind, yeah?
Yeah. Correct.
So I'd say shop that reel around. Send it to people. Annoy people, be a little obnoxious with it. Don't worry about that right now because I think one person will actually be receptive to it.
Yeah.
And you might get an email back, you might get a reply back, and that could change everything.
Awesome. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I've been a fan of your editing work for a really long time, so I love hearing you talk about all this stuff. I specifically wanted to ask about your transitions because I love your transitions so much. So do you think you could show us a little like tips and tricks of what you like to use maybe?
All right. What do we got? Like, okay. Oof. Are we just gonna do it live? We're gonna do it live? Okay, here we go. We'll do it live. I'm going to use this old video and use a new transition. It's funny, Adobe Premiere just implemented a new transition pack. Let me check out the name real quick. Yeah, that's right, Film Impact. That's right. I've been using that kind of a bit lately. Let's see. So I'm just going to show a little demonstration on the fly. Let's see what we got here. Yep, Film Impact. This has been my favorite one. It's going to be called, where's it at? I think it's the camera shake. I've been using that. I actually used that on the past 2 projects. So I'm going to put it on these 2 clips and see what it does. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but let's see. So I'm just going to drag that. Actually, you know what? There's another one I like better. Let's go to this one right here. I think it's motion camera. This has been my favorite so far. If we put this one here in between these two clips, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but let's go ahead and see it. So that's the after. Let me show the before so you guys can really see it. So just a hard cut, one more time. Make that a little bigger. Just a simple hard cut. And with the motion camera transition, so something simple, but the cool thing about this is you can actually click the transition and adjust it inside of it. And so that's how you can really make it your own thing. And that's what I love about these new transitions, is because you can manipulate how it looks, how long it is, and how it blends into the following clip. So film impact. That's a good one. Thank you. So we have about 2 minutes left, so it's going to be perfect.
Great, thank you. So I'm a corporate video producer, and I've been doing this for a while, but increasingly, I've been working in the 16:9 space essentially my whole career, but now more and more I'm being asked to essentially convert it to the 9:16 mobile.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like that's how a lot of things are moving, just in that direction of Instagram, LinkedIn, just showcasing all of your content there, particularly if you're in the corporate space. I was just wondering if you have any experience with that, or if you have any sort of best practices or tips for producing videos for social media, particularly Instagram.
Interesting. You know, I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was doing I think it was a McDonald's commercial, and the list of deliverables we got was way longer than I was used to, and it had 9:16s, 4x5s, 1x1s, and I was like, wait, what is going on here? I have to do all this now? This is crazy. One thing to mitigate that, I know some directors like to actually shoot with that on set, that vertical frame in mind. So they'll have it like taped on the viewfinder and actually frame for it. I know sometimes when you shoot for 16:9 and then have to do the 9:16 after, it won't look the same. Things will be out of frame, like even the branding logos will be out when the main subject is in. So it's tough, but I think framing beforehand on set is something that's helped out tremendously. So, thank you. Okay.
It seems like one of the things I struggle with is you develop your own style, which gets you more work, but then there's also that challenge of it becomes stale after a while, or at least I feel like it becomes stale because it seems like it's the same thing. How do you struggle with that, and then how do you keep your style but still challenge yourself to add a little bit more to it?
Yeah, I used to call myself a one-trick pony for a while. I know what you mean. Where you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over. I did that with speed ramps. I felt like I was like the speed ramp guy for a sec. And I was like, man, I need to break this. I need to get out of this. So I was honestly going back to like the emotional cutting and narrative storytelling. I feel like once I got out of music videos and proved that I can actually edit dialogue, edit a scene, create a mood, create a vibe, I feel like that was one thing that helped me get a little bit more respect within the industry versus just cutting to a beat or speed ramping all the time. So trying new genres of music out works, and honestly, narrative, dialogue storytelling was also another thing. Thank you. And I think that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great time, guys.